I enjoyed the first days talking about the show, and as each weekend came around for new rehearsals and more information, I found my enjoyment rising with the whole thing.
You find out all this stuff that people wouldn't have told you unless you were doing a show like this. Like my mother told me this morning that she got the offer of 150 and you couldn't get started.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Which was pretty weird. Yeah, so it's kind of amazing.
So they had to push it up the hill.
Yeah, they had to push it up the hill for ages.
None of us actually knew, I don't think at all, what the final story was going to look like. And for me, that was one of the things that made it a really interesting project, because the couple of plays I've been involved in before, like you read the lines, you rehearse, you get to the stage that you're absolutely sick of it and you know exactly what's coming when and everything else. But with this one, even on Friday, with a Sunday night show, we didn't have a clue what we were going to be saying, who we were going to be saying it to in some cases, and where it was going to fit in the overall picture. So that was really interesting.
From day one, the period of rehearsal was fairly short, but it was intense and it was great fun, and the local people were fantastic. Also, I may point out the people where we stayed, and the people in the village, and the people in Glenfarne generally, and in Manor Hamilton treated us with absolute fabulousness, and I'm delighted to say that if you're talking about this show.
Some of my experiences I talked to Michael about when we were in the early stages of this, and one of them was the part that Dodie plays in this show, which is the young Dodie, or in my case, a young 15-year-old boy was asked for the first time in his life if he would like to bend. And that was a thrilling and shocking experience for a 15-year-old.
Saw the end of the era of show bands here, and it was a rare occasion that there would be a band in latter years. So I saw also a change in Ireland, because in a ballroom like this, and I know in other ballrooms, but in this one in particular, we talked about immigration. People sat in chairs and they could be gone the following week. They had to go. There was nothing for them. So it was younger people of my own age leaving this area. So, and it was coming, for me to be back here today would be almost like a reliving and an experience of those days.
I would have come to maybe about 5 dances in the ballroom, because this is my local dance hall and would have been when I was a teenager going into my early 20s, and I absolutely hated coming here, because I hated the idea that, again, my own personal story, it'd be the case that most of the fellas that you fancy wouldn't ask you out to dance, and when you did get asked out to dance, it was probably for the last dance, some half-drunk slob taking you out to dance. And the first few rehearsals here actually brought that back to me, because when we rehearsed the bit where the boys rushed across and asked the women out to dance, I inevitably got left sitting there, probably because I'm kind of physically intimidating looking for some of the little fellas that's involved in this show. But it brought me back to, oh Jesus, I'm back here sitting here not being asked out to dance. But
we kept going up to women and we'd be getting tips on how to do our hair. Like we had the beehives in our hair, and
one woman gave me advice to put toilet roll round my head when I went to sleep, so that's what she used to do, so it wouldn't fall out.
From what I know around this area, I've been living in this area for the last 15 years, it seems to me that a lot more men got left and that the women actually physically left and went to the city. Now, a lot of those women I would have met in the 80s when I was a student in bedsits in Dublin, and they would live in bedsits in Dublin, and they would still live that very single, lonely life in a bedsit in Dublin, but they did actually physically remove themselves from the site of the shame and took themselves to a more anonymous life in the city, I think, a lot of them.
Usually a bottle of QC wine, which was very cheap, under 5 shillings, I remember, and the dance was about 5 shillings as well, and maybe a packet of gum, because it was frowned on to go into the dances smelling of drink in those days, so the gum was necessary to blot out the smell of the QC, which was absolutely putrid. But anyway, it gave us enough Dutch courage to do the dash across the floor and try and get the girl that we had dreamed about all week during our boring work from Monday to Friday.
Good reaction. They recognise every single character coming in, from the main parts to the very, very little part, and the contribution of the local community has been fantastic. Also, some of them are very, very talented.
I think because of the rehearsals, we'd all started doing, rehearsals before the show started, we'd all started kind of staying in character throughout our breaks and just chatting to each other. Just chatting to each other in character, and we had all these lines that we were saying to each other, and then when people started coming in the door, we just basically started saying it to those people, and I think it shocked them more than it shocked us.
It's a lot of fun because some of them really play along. There's a bit in the show where a woman accuses me and another girl of having put stuff down our chests, and I've been teased quite a lot by audience members during intervals when I'm at the bathroom, and they're always teasing me about having it down my chest, so it's very funny.
Also, there's enough people in the community cast to crowd the floor, and then the people think they're dancers, so they don't know that they are part of the show. They think they're just dancers, so they get immediately on the first number. I thought they wouldn't. I didn't think they would take time to get into it, but they didn't know. They're instantly taken by the dance.
It was as real as it could be. It was no longer drama. Once the music started here, it was no longer a play we were performing. We were part of a life and an experience of life, and an atmosphere it's within itself.
It was fabulous to see the dance hall come back to life. I probably was certainly I'm a bit too young for the era in which this is set, but like my mother and father would have danced here. And listening to Mammy talking about it after she'd seen the show really brought the whole story of the ballroom back to life for me in a way that it never would have made that much difference to me before seeing the show. Like, she just reminisced so much about it and loved it so much, and the music brought her back and the way everybody behaved brought her back. And that for me made the whole thing special because it was here.
I suppose in a way it does feel like we're kind of, without wishing to sound in any way kind of twee about it, it is like we're channeling a certain era, and those stories seem to be kind of coming alive for the older people who come and see it.
People are really, really special. So gentle, so forthright, so willing to work in the community, and it's just been absolutely fantastic.
It's been really good. A fascinating journey. I was terrified initially. I had no idea how this was all going to come together. And halfway through Sunday night I realised it was working. And I had faith in you. And I mean, this week it has. It's been magnificent. I must admit, I hate big crowds. I like the smaller crowd, because I can get round more and I have a better chance, you see, of finding a man. But tonight I happen to hope.
Yeah, this ballroom has always had a very special place in the nostalgic, romantic life of the area and the people who live around here. And I feel as though I've absorbed and learned more about that and enjoyed being a part of it and realised what it was. And my daughters who've been here have certainly, I think they have a flavour now of the kind of era when these ballrooms existed, and the fun and the excitement that was part of the whole thing with the men and the women and the romance and the excitement.
To get it right, that someone that can come here during this past week, who danced here 50 years ago and told me as I danced around this floor that this was like their days dancing here. So that's something I think is magic.
It's been a difficult project to put together, though I came in the very late stages. The community cast have been fantastic, and the area, so everybody's been so welcoming. But above all, we seem to have touched something, a nostalgia that people wanted. But it's not a soppy nostalgia. It's really something that's close to the history of this town and the area.
It's been an amazing experience from start to finish. It's just been an absolute blast. The people are incredible. We've just had such fun. We really have. Too much fun, actually. Far too much fun.
The best experience of my professional life.